Section 1. The Roe Deer Explored. Here we delve into the biology and ecology of the roe deer. In a species enigmatic, as it is familiar in the landscapes of the UK, we look at their physiological traits, habit preferences, and the subtleties of their behaviour that dictate their survival and reproduction. This exploration is not merely academic, it is a practical examination to inform effective management practices, ensuring that roe deer continue to thrive in harmony with human interests and the broader ecosystem. Through this, listeners will gain a robust understanding of roe deer, laying the foundation for informed management and conservation strategies. Evolution and taxonomy. The roe deer, Capreolus capreolus, exhibits an evolutionary journey tailored to the diverse and changing landscapes of Europe and Asia. As a member of the family Cervidae, it is a symbol of adaptability, having thrived through the Ice Age and into the present day. Within the genus Capreolus, the other being the larger Siberian roe deer, Capreolus pygorius. This genus is characterized by its modest size, agile nature, and distinctive antler structure, which has evolved not for combat, but rather for display and the evasion of predators that are now largely absent from the UK. The genetic history of the roe deer revels a story of survival and adaptation. Isolation by glacial events and subsequent recolonisation events have led to a degree of genetic diversity that is reflected in the various subspecies. This diversity is critical to the species' resilience, allowing it to inhabit a range of environments from the woodlands of Scotland to the steppes of Eastern Europe. For those involved in deer management, an understanding of the roe deer's taxonomy and evolutionary background provides essential insights into its behaviour and habitat needs. It underscores the importance of genetic diversity for the species' long-term viability and informs some management practices that can support healthy populations across their natural range. Evolutionary background. The Pleistocene epoch marked a defining moment in Earth's climatic history, characterised by a cyclical advance and retreat of massive ice sheets. This era of ice ages, with its drastic temperature swings and habitat shifts, set the stage for the emergence of roe deer. The species we recognise today was shaped by these conditions, which demanded versatility and resilience. The ebb and flow of the ice not only sculptured the physical landscape, but also the biological, compelling the roe deer and its contemporaries to adapt or perish. Early ancestors. Tracing the roe deer's lineage reveals a heritage rooted in the Paleocene. The fossil records of these early cervids show creatures adept at navigating a world markedly different from today's. Smaller in size, these ancestors bore simpler antlers and were likely solitary, a trait that persists in the modern roe deer. These early cervids set the evolutionary course, developing traits that would enable their descendants to flourish across the diverse terrains of Europe. Adaptations to the Palestine climates. Throughout this time, roe deer ancestors honed a suite of adaptations to endure the relentless cold and sporadic warmth of the interglacial reprieves. Their relatively small size reduced caloric needs, while a thick winter coat insulated against the bitter cold. Behaviourally, they grew elusive, a trait that minimised energy expenditure and reduced the likelihood of predation. This behavioural flexibility was key, enabling the roe deer to adjust to the shifting resources and dangers of an unpredictable epoch. Post-glacial expansion. With the retreat of the glaciers, roe deer population embarked on a remarkable expanse across Europe and Asia. The newly available habitats and niches sparked a period of evolutionary diversification, allowing regional populations to adapt to specific environments. This geographical separation laid the groundwork for the variety of ecotypes and subspecies we observe today, each finely tuned to a particular ecological setting. Ecological niche and diet. The roe deer's ecological niche is that of a selective browser, a role that has significant ramifications for the habitats they occupy. They influence the growth of patterns of vegetation, creating spaces for different plant species to thrive. Their diet, consisting of a variety of herbaceous plants, tree shoots, and fruits, reflects this niche. The impact of their feeding habits extends beyond the mere survival, playing a critical part in shaping the structure and the biodiversity of their environment. Survival strategies. Roe deer employ a range of survival strategies, from their secretive nature to their reproductive biology. They are skilled at avoiding detection, using dense vegetation and habitats to stay hidden from their threats. Their reproductive strategy of delayed implantation aligns the development and birth of the fawns with the most favourable environmental conditions, ensuring higher survival rates. These strategies, refined over millennia, are the roe deer's legacy from their ancestors. Impact of human activities. The onset of the Holocene brought a new factor in the roe deer's world: humans. From ancient hunting practices to modern habitat alterations, human activity has shaped the roe deer's existence. The shift from hunter-gatherer societies to agricultural civilizations changed the landscape, influencing roe deer's behaviours and habitats. This long-standing relationship between humans and roe deer continues to evolve, with management practices now focused on conservation as much as utility. Genetic studies and modern classification. Recent advances in genetic studies have shed a new light on the roe deer's taxonomy. DNA analysis has revealed a nuanced picture of subspecies differentiation, influenced by historical habitat fragmentation and population dynamics. These findings are critical for contemporary conservation, informing strategies that maintain genetic diversity and resilience within roe deer populations. Current challenges and evolutionary pressures. In the face of modern challenges such as climate change, habitat fragmentation, and environmental pollution, roe deer demonstrate both vulnerability and adaptability. Their evolutionary journey, marked by the capacity to adjust to new threats and opportunities, is ongoing. Researchers and managers observe how these pressures influence behaviour, physiology, and population dynamics, with the aim of supporting the species' continued adaptation. The future of roe deer evolution. Speculating on the future trajectory of roe deer evolution involves considering the continued pressures of environmental change and human influence. As climate patterns shift and human land use intensifies, the roe deer's ability to adapt will be crucial. Conservation efforts, informed by deep understanding of the roe deer's past, will play a pivotal role in shaping its future. Subspecies. Geographical variants. European roe deer. The European roe deer, Capreolus capreolus, is a species well suited to the temperate zones of Europe. They showcase a remarkable adaptability in their physical characteristics, with the coats that vary seasonally to provide effective camouflage, a reddish-brown hue in the warm months that shift to a more subdued grey-brown in the temperate drop. This coloration serves as a critical adaptation, allowing them to blend seamlessly into the changing landscapes. Adult roe deer stand about 60 to 75 centimetres at the shoulder, with males sporting short antlers which they shed and regrow annually, an adaptation linked to the reproductive cycle. In terms of habitat preferences, European roe deer are versatile. They have preferential for transitional areas between woods and open land, thriving in the mosaic forests and fields that characterise much of Europe. These edge habitats provide them with the varied diet they require, as well as a cover from potential predators and harsh winter. Despite their adaptability, they show fidelity to particular areas, often staying within a defined home range that provides their needs throughout the year. Behaviourally, the European roe deer exhibit a range of adaptations that have enabled them to flourish. They are crepuscular, foraging primarily at dawn and at dusk, when the risk is lower. During the rutting season, which occurs between July and August, the males become more territorial and actively seek out females, employing a range of vocalizations and scents to communicate and compete for mates. This timing ensures that the fawns are born in the spring, when conditions are optimal for their survival, showcasing the species' intricate alignment with seasonal rhythms of their environment. The Siberian roe deer. The Siberian roe deer stands out as a robust counterpart to its European relative. Adapted to the more severe climates of Asia's expansive taiga and steppes, they display a larger body size, a thicker and denser fur for insulation, and elongated legs that facilitate movement across deep snow or rugged terrain. These physical attributes are evolutionary responses to the challenges posed by their environment, where temperatures can plummet and food sources can become scarce. Their behaviour is marked by notable migratory patterns, a rare trait among the deer, which sees them traverse long distances seasonally. This migration is a survival strategy, allowing them to exploit different regions for feeding and breeding as harsh conditions dictate. The vastness of their habitat means that these migrations are crucial for assessing the scattered and seasonal resources available in such environments. In coping with their extremes of their native Asian habitats, the Siberian roe deer have become a symbol of adaptability. Their life cycles are meticulously attuned to the environment, with breeding and fawning periods timed to capitalise on optimal conditions of the brief Siberian summer. This precision ensures that their offspring have the best chance of survival in the unforgiving landscapes they call home. Subspecies adaptations. The subspecies of roe deer are distinguishable by a suite of adaptations that reflect the ecological conditions of their specific regional habitats. Variations in antler morphology are one such adaptation. For instance, some subspecies have developed larger and more complex antlers when open habitat promotes visibility and display, while others in denser forests retain smaller and simpler antlers to navigate through thick vegetation. Body size among the subspecies also varies, with some populations growing larger to better retain heat in colder climates or traverse deep snow, and others remaining smaller, which is more advantageous for warmer regions and denser habitat. The timing of the rutting season across these subspecies is another adaptation to local conditions. In cooler climates, the rut tends to occur later in the year, ensuring that the subsequent birth of fawns aligns with the warmer weather and abundant food resources in the spring. Conversely, in milder regions, the rut can take place earlier. These adaptations are the result of evolutionary pressures that have shaped each population to optimise survival and reproductive success in their particular environments. Conservation and management strategies. Conservation and management of roe deer subspecies are dynamic fields that require a multifaceted approach. Conservation status of each subspecies varies, with some facing more acute challenges than others. Habitat loss is a pervasive threat as urban and agricultural developments encroach on natural landscapes. The traditional roaming grounds of roe deer are diminished, leading to habitat fragmentation. Climate change introduces additional complexities, altering the ecosystem that roe deer have adapted to over millennia, potentially affecting their migration patterns and the availability of food resources. To mitigate these threats, conservation strategies must be subspecies and region specific. In areas where habitat loss is significant, efforts may focus on creating wildlife corridors to maintain ecological connectivity. For populations affected by climate change, conservationists might prioritise the protection of core habitats that are likely to remain climatically stable. Sustainable hunting regulations are also crucial to ensure that population control measures do not inadvertently harm the genetic diversity or long-term viability of roe deer populations. Management strategies also require robust monitoring to be effective. Data on population dynamics, genetic diversity, and habitat changes are essential for informed decision-making. Active collaboration between wildlife biologists, land managers, policymakers, and local communities is vital. Through such cooperative and informed efforts, the aim is to maintain the ecological balance, allowing roe deer subspecies to thrive within their natural habitat while ensuring their coexistence with human-altered landscapes. Anatomical and physiological insights. The anatomical and physiological characteristics of roe deer have evolved to optimise their survival in the diverse habitats they occupy. Structurally, they are lean and agile, an adaptation that affords them the nimbleness to navigate through both dense underbush and open fields with ease. Their legs, while slender, are powerful, facilitating quick bursts of speed that are essential for escaping predators. Roe deer are also equipped with a 4-chambered stomach, typical of ruminants, which allows them to efficiently extract nutrients from diet consisting mostly of leaves, shoots, and twigs. Roe deer, as we have covered, are highly attuned to their environments, with their senses finely honed for detection and communication. Their large, mobile ears can capture the slightest sounds, alerting them to danger well before it becomes visible. Vision is another pivotal sense, with their large eyes adapted to low light conditions, an attribute that facilitates their crepuscular lifestyle. The sense of smell is equally critical, but not only used for detecting predators, but also in locating food and during the breeding season when males seek out females. On a physiological level, roe deer have several adaptations that aid their survival. Their coat changes not only in colour, but also in density, providing insulation against the cold in winter and a cooler, lighter covering for summer. Additionally, they have a unique adaptation in their reproductive strategy known as delayed implantation, where the fertilized egg does not immediately implant into the uterus, allowing the timing of the birth of fawns to coincide with optimal environmental conditions. These anatomical and physiological insights are vital for the understanding of roe deer's interactions with their environment and for informing effective conservation and management practices. Physical traits. Roe deer exhibit a range of physical traits finely attuned by evolution. Adult roe deer are relatively small among their cervid relatives, standing approximately 70 centimetres at the shoulder. This compactness affords them agility, essential for navigating the dense understory of forests and for rapid evasion in open fields. The body of a roe deer is light and muscular, an embodiment of their adaptability, enabling swift movements and endurance over long distance when necessary. The coat of the roe deer is double-layered, with a dense undercoat that provides insulation and a longer guard hair that repels water. Seasonally, their coat changes not only in thickness but also in colour, from a rich reddish brown in the summer to a greyer hue in the winter, camouflage against a drab landscape. This seasonal molting is triggered by changes in daylight duration, allowing the roe deer to remain inconspicuous to predators year-round. The antlers of male roe deer are another distinguishing physical trait. They are relatively short and upright, with few tines, and unlike other deer species whose antlers are used primarily for combat, roe deer antlers are more for display during the rutting season. The growth and shedding of these antlers are closely linked to testosterone levels, which rise and fall with the seasons. After the mating season, the antlers are shed, marking the end of the reproductive cycle and the beginning of new growth period in preparation for next. Roe deer are also known for their distinctive rump patch, which becomes particularly prominent when they are alarmed. This white patch contrasts sharply with their otherwise muted coat, signalling distress to other deer. Coupled with this visual cue is a strong scent from their anal glands, which they use to mark territory and communicate with one another, particularly during the rut. Overall, the physical traits of the roe deer, from their agile bodies to their communicative markings, play a crucial role in their interaction with the environment and other deer. These characteristics are not only of interest from a biological perspective, but also have important implications for how these animals are managed within their natural habitat in areas where populations intersect with human activities. Survival adaptations. The survival adaptations of roe deer are a testament to their evolutionary prowess, enabling them to thrive across varied European terrains. One of their most notable adaptations is their cryptic behaviour. When threatened, roe deer often remain motionless, blending into their surroundings to evade detection. This instinctual behaviour is complemented by their reddish-brown summer coat, which provides excellent camouflage among the woodland flora, shifting to a duller grey-brown in winter to match the leafless trees and frosted ground. Physiologically, roe deer are equipped to handle the scarcity of food during the colder months. Their metabolism can slow down during winter, reducing the nutritional requirements at the time when resources are limited. This physiological adaptation is crucial for their survival during periods when forage quality is poor and quantity is low. Reproductively, roe deer have a unique adaptation known as delayed implantation, or embryonic diapause, where the development of the embryo is temporarily suspended. This ensures that the birth of the fawn coincides with the abundance of spring, providing optimal conditions for their growth and survival. Anatomically, roe deer are built for survival. Their lithe form allows for agility and a swift escape from predators. Even the fawns are born with a lack of scent, which helps protect them from predators during their most vulnerable early days. These survival traits not only illustrate the roe deer's ability to adapt to their environment, but also underline the importance of understanding these adaptations to ensure effective management and conservation practices. It's the interplay of these characteristics that has allowed the roe deer to not just survive, but to flourish in diverse ecological niches. Habitats and distribution. Within the UK, the roe deer is an established native species, its presence dating back to before the last ice age, and it has since recolonised much of the mainland. The preferred habitats for roe deer in the UK are varied, but they are frequently found in woodland areas, as well as heathlands and agricultural fringes, where there is ample cover and forage. The adaptability of roe deer to different landscapes is evident within their widespread distribution across the country. In the UK, the roe deer habitat has been shaped significantly by human activity. Afforestation and changes in the land use have created new habitats suitable for roe deer, aiding in their expansion. However, this expansion has brought them closer to urban areas, leading to increased sightings in suburban gardens and parks. Despite this proximity to human habitation, roe deer generally avoid areas with high human activity, preferring the relative tranquility of less disturbed areas. Conservation efforts in the UK focus on understanding the roe deer's role in the ecosystem and managing their impact on forestry and agriculture. Due to their browsing habits, roe deer can influence woodland regeneration, and thus active management is required to maintain a balance between conservation goals and the economic use of rural landscapes. As a valued game species, they also play a role in rural economies, with their management and stalking forming part of the countryside cultural heritage. Preferred environments. Roe deer display a strong preference for environments that offer a balance between forested cover and open spaces. Their ideal habitat is characterised by a mixed woodland interspersed with glades and clearings, which provides them with the necessary shelter and a variety of foraging options. They thrive at the edges of forests where the transition to open land creates a rich diversity of flora. These animals are particularly drawn to young, regenerating forests, where ground-level vegetation is abundant. Such habitats support their diet, which consists mainly of grasses, leaves, shoots, and in the spring and summer, a variety of herbs and flowers. The structure of these woodlands allows the roe deer to forage efficiently while maintaining quick access to cover. Roe deer have also adapted to make use of agricultural landscapes, where the hedgerows and strips of woodland meet crop fields. While this brings them into closer contact with humans, it allows them to exploit a rich patchwork of habitats. However, this can lead to crop damage and potential conflicts with farmers, necessitating careful management to minimise negative impacts. The adaptability of roe deer is further evidenced by their ability to occupy parkland and suburban areas, where they can be seen to be grazing in gardens and green spaces. Despite their flexibility, these environments can pose risks such as road traffic and increased human disturbance, highlighting the importance of conservation efforts that focus on the safe and suitable natural habitats. Conservation strategies for roe deer involve managing woodlands in a way that promotes understory growth and maintaining corridors of vegetation that connect isolated patches of suitable habitat. This ensures that roe deer, along with many other species that share their habitat, can continue to disperse and maintain genetic diversity, which is vital for the overall health and resilience of their population. Geographical spread. The geographical spread of the roe deer is a testament to its ecological versatility. Across the broad expanse of Europe and into Asia, the roe deer has established itself in a diverse array of environments, from the Mediterranean woodlands and farmlands to the rugged taiga of Siberia. This extensive range showcases the species' ability to adapt to a spectrum of climates and landscapes. In the temperate forests of Central Europe, roe deer are a common sight, benefiting from the patchworks of forests and fields. The varying topography of this region, from flat plains to rolling hills, provides an array of niches that roe deer have exploited successfully. Moving northwards, the species encounters harsher climates. Here their density tends to decrease, but they remain a resilient presence, with adaptations such as thicker winter coats and a diet that varies with the seasons. The roe deer's presence in the Mediterranean is dictated by the availability of water and vegetation. In these warmer climates, roe deer tend to inhabit forested areas that provide essential shade and foraging opportunities. They are less common in arduous regions, where the environment cannot sustain their needs. Human activity has both helped and hindered the roe deer's spread, while in others, urban development has fragmented their traditional roaming grounds. Despite this, roe deer have shown remarkable adaptability, sometimes becoming a familiar sight in suburban settings. Conservation efforts for roe deer take into account their wider geographical spread. In areas of dense human population, measures are often taken to manage their numbers and reduce conflicts, such as road accidents. In more remote areas, the focus may be on preserving their natural habitats and ensuring traditional migration routes are open and safe. The future distribution of roe deer is likely to evolve in response to environmental changes and human land use patterns. Climate change, in particular, may alter their habitats and force shifts in their range. Understanding the current geographical spread of the roe deer is crucial in predicting these changes and in developing strategies to ensure that this adaptable species remains a thriving part of the ecosystem. Behavioural patterns and social dynamics. Roe deer exhibit a solitary behaviour for much of the year, with individuals marking out territories using a combination of scent markings from glands located around their face and hooves. These territories are a crucial component of the roe deer's life, serving as a personal space for feeding and as a breeding ground during the mating season. The rutting season signals a profound shift in behaviour, particularly for bucks, who engage in displays of dominance to attract mates. This involves a combination of scent marking, vocalization unusual outside of this period, and physical display. Bucks might engage in fights, although these are typically brief and rarely lead to serious injury, as the roe deer tend to rely more on posturing and presentation to establish dominance. Fawns are born in the spring, benefiting from the timing allowed by the delayed implantation in the roe deer's reproduction. This ensures that birth aligns with periods of high resource availability, maximising the chances of juvenile survival. The fawn's dappled coats provide camouflage, aiding them to remain hidden from predators during vulnerable stages of their life. In the colder months, roe deer may form temporary aggregations to forage, a behaviour that is more about necessity than social preference. These generally loose affiliations, without any rigid structure on hierarchy, and disperse when the imperative to share resources subsides with the arrival of spring. These behavioural patterns illustrate the roe deer's finely tuned adaptation to their environment, territorial behaviour, reproductive strategies, and even their social grouping during the winter are all shaped by the need to survive and reproduce in a changing environment. Understanding these behaviours is crucial for their management and conservation, ensuring that interventions align with the natural cycle of these animals. Daily and seasonal routines. The roe deer's daily routines are a testament to their adaptation to the diurnal cycle. In the subdued light of dawn, they emerge from their resting place to browse the dew-moistened vegetation. This time is crucial for feeding, as it allows them to take advantage of the relative quiet and safety before human activity peaks. As the day progresses, they retreat into the safety of thick cover, where they can chew their cud and rest, conserving energy for the evening forage. Seasonality plays a significant role in these routines. The abundance of spring and summer supports the greater expenditure of energy, with does nurturing their young and bucks engaging in the energetic pursuits of the rut. The increase in daylight hours also shifts their activity patterns, allowing more time for feeding and social interaction. As autumn approaches, the roe deer's behaviour shift in anticipation of the leaner months. They begin to feed more heavily, building up reserves to sustain them through the winter. This is also a time for change for the flora they depend on, as many plants begin to senesce, prompting the deer to forage across a wider area to find adequate nutrition. The starkness of winter imposes a more frugal routine. The shorter days and the scarcity of food must maximise the efficiency of each foraging session. They may be seen browsing on hardier plants or braving open fields in search of leftover agricultural crops. This finely tuned cycle of activity and rest, modulated by the change in seasons, is crucial for the roe deer's survival. The species' well-being is deeply connected to these patterns, making understanding them essential for any conservation efforts. Human activities, such as forestry work or recreational use of woodlands, must be carefully timed to avoid disrupting the roe deer's finely balanced schedule. Social hierarchy and territory. In the established social hierarchy of roe deer, territoriality is the primary expression of dominance, particularly among bucks. Unlike many other deer species, where physical battles are commonplace, roebucks tend to avoid physical confrontation in favour of more subtle forms of competition. They meticulously mark their territories with scent from glands around their face and hooves, which serves as a signal to other bucks to steer clear and as an attractant to does during the rut. Territories are widely chosen based on availability of resources such as food, shelter, and the strategic advantage they provide during the breeding season. The size and quality of the territory can directly impact the buck's mating success, making defence of this area the key focus during much of the year. Within these territories, social order is largely maintained through avoidance and the respect of boundaries. During the rut, however, bucks may engage in more overt displays of dominance, such as parallel walks or antler clashing, but these are generally brief and rarely result in serious injury. The does, while less territorial, are not without their own social structures. Maternal hierarchies can exist, influenced by age, experience, and the rearing of fawns. These matriarchal structures are less rigid than the territorial boundaries set by the bucks, and often shift with seasons and the availability of resources. Understanding the nuances of roe deer, social hierarchy, and territory is crucial for effective management, particularly in areas where human development encroaches upon traditional habitats. Conservation efforts must take into account the delicate balance of these social structures, ensuring that human activities do not disrupt the crucial territorial and hierarchical bonds that underpin the roe deer's breeding success and survival. Feeding and foraging. The roe deer's approach to feeding and foraging is a remarkable display of adaptability, driven by an innate preference for a diverse diet that changes with seasons. In the spring, their foraging is guided by sprouting flora. They feed on the fresh growth of grass, herb, and young leaves from broadleaf trees. This is when they also take advantage of garden plants and agricultural crops, often venturing into open areas to browse. As summer progresses, their diet broadens further to include a variety of fruits and berries that become available. The high sugar content of these foods is vital for building up energy reserves. Roe deer have also been observed foraging for different types of fungi, which complement their diet with minerals and other nutrients. The onset of autumn sees a shift towards more fibrous food sources. Roe deer will forage for acorns which are rich in fats and help them increase their body weight in preparation for winter. They may also consume ivy, holly, and other evergreens that remain palatable through the colder months. Winter is the most challenging season, with roe often relying on their ability to metabolize woody twigs, bark, and remaining evergreens. Their complex stomachs, capable of fermenting tough cellulose, becomes critical to their survival during periods when other food sources are scarce. The roe deer's feeding habits not only influence their physical condition and their reproductive success, but also the vegetation dynamics of their habitat. Their selective browsing can shape woodland understories, impact the regeneration of trees, and influence the composition of ground flora, making them an integral component of their ecosystem. Understanding these detailed foraging behaviours is crucial for managing roe deer populations effectively, particularly in areas where their habitats overlap with agricultural land and where the conservation of natural woodland is a priority. Reproduction and life cycle. The reproductive cycle of a roe deer is marked by a strategy known as implantation. After the rut, which is a period when males compete for and mate with females, the fertilized embryos enter a state of suspended development, allowing fawns to be born during the favourable conditions of spring. This timing ensures that the young have access to abundant food sources, thereby increasing their chances of survival. Fawns are born with white spots on their coat, providing camouflage against the forest floor. They remain hidden in the undergrowth for the first few weeks, with does visiting only to nurse, minimising the risk of predation. As they grow, fawns begin to follow the doe, learning to forage and navigate their environment. Yearlings face a critical period as they become independent. They must establish their own territories, a process that is more challenging for young bucks, who must compete with older, more established males. Young does may conceive in their first year, but often delay in breeding if food is scarce or they lack suitable territories. Environmental factors such as severe winters, disease, and loss of habitat can significantly impact the survival rates and reproductive success of roe deer. These factors can lead to fluctuations in population, highlighting the need for monitoring and, where necessary, management interventions to sustain healthy populations. Throughout their lifespan, which can extend to a decade or more in optimal conditions, roe deer will reproduce several times. contributing to the maintenance of their species population. The survival of each fawn through to adulthood is a delicate interplay between genetic fitness, environmental factors, and the ability of the species to adapt to changing conditions. Mating rituals. The bucks. During the breeding season, the roebuck's existence revolves almost entirely around the establishment and defence of his territory, with the ultimate aim of attracting does for mating. The buck's territorial behaviour is complex, involving both olfactory and auditory signals. His rubbing against trees and shrubs not only leaves visual markers, but also deposits scents from the glands on his head, creating a boundary by his unique chemical signature. The buck also employs a distinctive bark to announce his presence, asserting dominance over his territory and deterring rivals. This call can cover over long distances, effectively broadcasting his fitness and readiness to compete for mates. The physical condition of the buck during this time is paramount. Those with superior strength and stamina are more likely to maintain larger territories and consequently attract more females. The frequent chases, both of intruding males and prospective mates, require immense energy, and only the most vigorous bucks are likely to reproduce, thus driving the natural selection process. Even in the absence of direct competition, the bucks remain vigilant, often patrolling the perimeters of his territory to reinforce his scent markings and to check for any breaches by competing males. It is also a time-consuming and energy-depleting process, but one that is crucial for reproductive success in the life of a roe deer buck. The does. The roe doe plays a nuanced role in the reproductive cycle of the species. During the majority of the year, she maintains a solitary existence or is accompanied by her young. As the rut approaches, her behaviour shifts subtly as she becomes receptive to the advances of a buck, who have been diligently marking territory and signalling their readiness to mate. The doe's influence on the mating process is significant. She entices the buck with a series of behaviours that may include subtle movements and postures indicating her readiness to mate. Her choice to either flee or to allow the buck's advances dictates the dynamics of the rut, ensuring that only the fittest males have the opportunity to pass on their genes. The doe's ability to control the timing of conception through delayed implantation is a critical evolutionary advantage. After a successful mating, the fertilized egg remains dormant until late December or early January, regardless of July or August conception. This remarkable adaptation ensures that the birth of her offspring aligns with the most favourable environmental conditions in the spring, when food is abundant and the weather is less inclement. The gestation period following implantation lasts approximately 4 months, culminating in the birth of 1 or 2 fawns around May. The doe selects a secluded spot to give birth, often in dense cover, where the newborns remain hidden for their first few weeks, relying on their dappled coats for camouflage. The doe is a vigilant mother, visiting her fawns to nurse them, but remaining watchful for any signs of predators. Her protective instincts are paramount during this vulnerable period for the fawns. Once they are old enough to follow her, she begins to teach them the essential skills they will need to survive: foraging, hiding, and recognizing danger. Through these complex behaviours and biological adaptations, the roe doe ensures the survival of her lineage and, by extension, contributes to the resilience and diversity of the species. Developmental phases. The developmental journey of a roe deer from fawn to full maturity is marked by several key phases. Initially, the fawns are born between May and June, when the habitat is abundant with food. Their spotted coat is an evolutionary trait, providing camouflage against the forest floor. During these early days, the fawns rely on their stillness and lack of scent to avoid detection by predators, only moving to nurse from the doe. As the fawns enter their first few months, they begin to forage, gradually learning to select from the variety of vegetation available. By autumn, they are more independent, though they still maintain a close bond with the doe, often seen feeding together as they prepare for the winter ahead. The winter months are a crucial test for the young roe deer. Food is scarce, and their ability to forage efficiently is vital for survival. The social bonds from earlier months begin to loosen, as the fawns, now more robust yearlings, start to explore and establish their own place within the roe deer community. By the spring of their second year, The yearlings are fully independent. Young bucks, now sporting their first set of antlers, albeit small, begin to feel the stirrings of territorial instinct. They start to mark out their own territories, though it may be several years before they successfully challenge older bucks during the rut. Sexual maturity is reached at about 16 months for does and somewhat later for bucks, with full physical maturity by 3 to 4 years of age. At this stage, they are fully integrated into the roe deer population, contributing to the genetic diversity and the continuation of their species through the reproductive and rearing of the next generation of fawns. Each of these phases, from vulnerable fawn to mature adult, is laced with environmental challenges, and developmental milestones are vital to the survival of the species.